You're already what you seek to become. The problem is not in the lack of power, but in the misdirection of attention. You try so hard, straining, hoping, yearning, believing that effort will unlock the door to your desires. But desire fulfilled does not respond to effort. It responds to alignment. You do not manifest by trying, you manifest by assuming, by resting in the feeling that the thing desired is already yours. The moment you try to force reality to bend to your will, you confess to yourself that it is not yet done. And what you affirm within must be expressed without. Do you not know that imagination is the creative force of the world? Everything you see was once imagined, but it was not imagined with struggle. The oak tree does not strain to grow. The river does not fight to flow. They follow their nature, and your nature is imagination. The moment you try to manifest, you step outside the state of having. You become the beggar outside the palace walls, when in truth, the palace is within you. Your wealth, your health, your love. They are not things to be chased, but states to be entered. How do you feel if it were true now? Not tomorrow, not one day, but now, that is the question. That is the secret. If you can capture the feeling and dwell in it, not merely visit but abide, then the outer world must conform to the inner truth. Stop pleading. Stop waiting. Stop trying. Assume, rest, accept. The effort to manifest reveals a deeper disbelief. When you know it is done, you do not try, you rejoice. Everything responds to the assumption held within. It is not what you want that manifests. It is what you are. So be it. Be the one who already has, already knows, already is, and let the world echo back what you have dared to accept in silence. Manifestation is not about effort, it is about assumption. The more you try to bring something into your life by force, by intensity, or by constant repetition, the more you reinforce the idea that it is not yet yours. And in doing so, you step away from the very principle that governs manifestation. Trying implies separation. It affirms that there is a gap between where you are and where you want to be. But assumption closes that gap. It doesn't ask whether the desire will come, it accepts that it already has. This distinction is subtle but profound. You are not here to force things into being. You are here to accept that they already are. In the realm of the imagination, time collapses. There is no waiting, no becoming. You do not try to become wealthy. You assume you are wealthy and then live inwardly from that state. You do not try to find love. You assume you are already deeply loved and cherished. And then, without strain, the world moves to reflect that inner conviction. The key is not in working harder to believe it. The key is resting in the truth of it. To assume is to silently declare, this is who I am. Not I will be, not I hope to be, but I am. Effort in manifestation is rooted in doubt. The mind that struggles is the mind that is not yet accepted. It hopes, it wishes, it begs. But the mind that assumes is quiet. It does not demand evidence because it already knows. This is why those who live in the assumption of their wish fulfilled are often serene. They have let go of trying because they have already arrived. Their inner conversations are not filled with pleas but with gratitude. They speak as one who has received, not as one who is still waiting. When you try, you wait. When you assume, you experience. This is the difference between living in hope and living in faith. Hope places fulfillment in the future. Faith claims it now. And manifestation responds to faith, not hope. When you try to manifest something, you are often visualizing with tension, with fear that it may not work. But assumption is different. It is relaxed. It is confident. It is the quiet knowing that What you have imagined is already true. And this quiet knowing is the seed from which all things grow. Many believe they must repeat affirmations endlessly or visualize with great emotional intensity, as if volume and frequency will make the universe respond faster. But the truth is far more graceful. One deep, genuine assumption, felt once and allowed to settle, can do more than 1,000 repetitions filled with effort. The power is not in how hard you try, it is in how deeply you accept. You do not manifest what you want, you manifest what you believe you already are. So if you continue to try, you will continue to reinforce the idea that you are someone who lacks. Let go the idea that manifestation is a technique to be mastered. It is not something you do, it is something you are. You are the operant power. The world responds not to what you do, but to what you are conscious of being. When you assume a state of consciousness, the world must reflect it. This is law. There is no need to beg, to strive, or to chase. Simply assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Let it become your natural state. Let it guide your thoughts, your moods, your actions. Not with effort, but with ease. Because trying says, I do not have, but assuming calmly says, I already am. And the world always mirrors who you are. Imagination is the creative force behind all that you experience. Everything that you see around you, every structure, invention, relationship, opportunity, originated first in the unseen realm of imagination. Before it was visible, it was imagined. It was felt. It was accepted in consciousness. That is where all creation begins, and that is where your true power lies. When you come to understand that imagination is not a passive daydream, but the active creative power of the universe expressing itself through you, everything changes. You stop looking outside for causes and you begin to take responsibility for the images you entertain within. The outer world is a mirror reflecting the inner state. Whatever you consistently imagine with feeling must take form. This is not a poetic idea, it is a law of consciousness. You cannot escape it. If you fill your imagination with lack, with fear, with limitation, then your world will conform to those inner impressions. But when you deliberately and faithfully imagine yourself as the person you desire to be and feel it to be true, then you have planted the seed of its expression. Just as a seed becomes a tree without struggle, so too does your imagined state unfold into reality without effort, so long as it is held with conviction. Imagination is not bound by time or space. It does not wait for things to be real in the physical world. It makes them real in consciousness. And that is where reality begins. You may think that you must wait for circumstances to change before you feel different. But the truth is the opposite. You must feel different first, and then the world changes to match your inner state. The man who imagines himself successful, respected, and confident, and truly assumes that identity in his inner world, will find doors opening where before there were none. He will be drawn to people, ideas, and actions that support his assumption. The world bends to the image held in the mind. The reason most people fail to manifest their desires is not because they lack the ability, but because they do not take their imagination seriously. They imagine what they fear. They rehearse what they do not want. They allow their inner conversations to spiral into worry, doubt, and resentment, and then they wonder why their lives reflect the same. But imagination is always at work. It does not pause simply because you are unaware of it. It is shaping your world moment by moment, according to the patterns of thought and feeling you hold within. To consciously use imagination is to claim authorship over your life. It is to understand that you are not a victim of chance or circumstance, but the initiator of cause. The moment you persist in a new self-concept, a new pattern of thought, the universe responds. Not by chance, but by law. You do not need to know how it will come to pass. You only need to assume that it is, and live in that knowing. The how belongs to the intelligence that created the galaxies. Your role is simply to accept the end. This is why imagination must be honored as sacred. It is not a toy. It is not escapism. It is the workshop of creation. You go there not to escape reality, but to form it. When you imagine with feeling, you impress the subconscious mind, and the subconscious, without resistance, expresses that which is impressed upon it. It does not question, it does not judge, it simply accepts the state you embody as true and brings it forth in time. So choose carefully what you allow to dominate your imagination. For what you imagine today, you will live tomorrow. And if you persist in it, it must come to pass. This is the power that shapes your world. Feeling is the secret to all creation. It is not enough to think of what you want. You must feel it to be real. Thought without feeling is like a seed without soil. Nothing grows from it. The feeling of the wish fulfilled is the key that unlocks the door to manifestation. It is the inner acceptance that what you desire already exists in your world. When you feel the reality of your desire as if it were already present, you are no longer seeking, it is already yours in consciousness. And consciousness is the only reality. Many people think that by repeating affirmations or visualizing images, they will eventually change their lives. But if those practices are not accompanied by genuine feeling, they remain powerless. Words spoken without conviction fall flat. Images imagined without emotional resonance fade away. It is the emotional charge, the felt reality that impresses the subconscious mind. And it is the subconscious that expresses itself as the conditions and events of your life. What you feel deeply and consistently becomes the pattern your world must follow. Feeling is not the same as emotion in the reactive sense. You are not required to stir yourself into a frenzy. The feeling that creates is a calm inner knowing, a quiet confidence, a restful awareness that what you have imagined is true. It is the sense of relief, of peace, of gratitude that arises when something long desired has finally arrived. That feeling, held consistently, is what brings your desire from the unseen into the seen. You don't force it, you allow it, you dwell in it, and as you do, the world around you begins to reflect it. To live in the feeling of the wish fulfilled is to walk by faith, not by sight. You are no longer dependent on external circumstances to confirm your belief. You carry the reality within you, and because you feel it to be true, the outer must conform to the inner. This is not a maybe, it is a law. The world is a mirror, and it reflects your dominant inner state. If you feel yourself to be secure, loved, successful, or healed, regardless of appearances, then those qualities will externalize in your life in time. The moment you allow doubt, fear, or impatience to take over, you have stepped out of the feeling of the wish fulfilled and into the state of lack. And what you are conscious of being is always what you manifest. If you feel lack, you receive more lack. If you feel abundance, you draw experiences that match that abundance. This is why guarding your inner state is so vital. It is not enough to wish for change. You must become the embodiment of that change in feeling. You must live inwardly as if it were already so. This inner work is not done with strain, it is done with stillness. You withdraw attention from what is and place it on what you choose to be. You allow your imagination to paint the scene, and then you feel your way into it. You ask yourself, how would I feel if this were true? And you linger there. You walk through your day from that feeling. You let it color your thoughts, your choices, your posture, your conversations, not because you are trying to make it happen, but because it already has happened in your inner world. And that is the only place it ever begins. When the feeling is real, persistent, and accepted as natural, the manifestation becomes inevitable. You do not chase it, it finds you. The outer world simply plays the role your inner world assigns. So feel your way into the life you desire. Feel it often. Feel it fully. Let it become your dwelling place. For what you feel, you become. And what you become, the world must mirror without fail. Your external world is nothing more than a reflection of your internal state. The conditions of your life, the people you attract, the experiences that unfold, these are all outpicturings of the beliefs, assumptions, and feelings you hold within yourself. This truth, once deeply understood, liberates you from the illusion that you are at the mercy of external forces. You are not a passive participant in life. You are the cause. The outer world is simply the effect. You may believe that people treat you in a certain way because of who they are, but in truth they respond to the vibration you carry, the concept you hold of yourself. If you walk through the world with the assumption that you are unworthy or invisible, people will unconsciously pick up on that and mirror it back. But if you revise that inner concept, if you begin to feel that you are valuable, worthy, and respected, the world must change to accommodate that new inner reality. The shift does not begin out there. It begins. This is not about denying the existence of challenges or pretending that nothing ever goes wrong. Rather, it is about recognizing that your persistent state of consciousness determines how those challenges unfold and how you move through them. If your inner state is one of calm confidence, even adversity must yield to your steadiness. But if your inner state is fear and resistance, then every small obstacle becomes a mountain. The outer is always dancing to the tune of the inner. People often try to manipulate the world around them without realizing that what they truly need to adjust is their internal atmosphere. They change jobs, relationships, locations, only to find the same problems follow them. That is because they never changed themselves. They never revised the story they told inwardly. And so the same characters and patterns show up again and again, wearing different faces. The moment you change the self you identify with, the world begins to mirror something entirely new. This is why assuming a new identity in consciousness is the beginning of all transformation. If you desire to be loved, assume that you already are. Feel it. Live from that place. If you desire wealth, carry the mood of abundance. Let it affect how you think, how you speak, how you make decisions. These inner movements are not imaginary, they are formative. The subconscious mind accepts the dominant assumption, and the world must respond accordingly. There is no use begging the world to treat you better while you secretly believe you are unworthy. There is no use chasing validation while carrying the assumption that you are not enough. What you hold within will always outweigh what you attempt to force on the outside. The world does not change to make you feel different. It changes because you feel different. As within, so without. This is not philosophy, it is law. To live in awareness of this truth is to take responsibility for your life. Not in a burdensome way, but in a freeing way. You realize that you are not a victim, you are a creator, and creation begins with consciousness. The story you habitually tell yourself is the script the world follows. So if you do not like the current play, do not blame the stage, change the script. Change your self-concept. Persist in a new inner state long enough and the outer must bend to match it. It has no choice. The mirror cannot reflect anything other than what stands before it. When you begin to consciously cultivate the inner state that aligns with your desire, you find that circumstances shift, people change, opportunities arise. Not because the world has become more cooperative, but because you have changed the signal you are sending. You are no longer reacting to the world, you are creating it. And as the creator, the world can only echo the truth you dare to embody. Faith is not about striving. It is not about effort or repetition or willing something into being. True faith is stillness. It is the quiet, unshakable knowing that what you have imagined is already real. It does not demand evidence from the senses, nor does it concern itself with when or how the manifestation will come. Faith moves beyond the noise of appearances and rests securely in the unseen. It is not a mental struggle, but a spiritual confidence. You are not hoping, wishing, or begging. You are knowing. And in that knowing, all things are made possible. When you understand faith in this way, you realize that struggle is a sign you have not yet accepted. Trying hard to believe something is an admission that you don't truly believe it. Real belief requires no effort. You do not try to believe that the sun will rise tomorrow. You simply know. You do not strain to believe that your feet will carry you across the room. You just move. That same effortless certainty must apply to your desires. If you can imagine it and truly feel it as real, then faith requires only that you rest in that assumption and live as though it were already done. This stillness is not passivity, it is not laziness, it is a deep alignment with the power that shapes worlds. When you are still in faith, you are not moved by appearances, you are not shaken by delays, you are not discouraged by silence. You continue to live from the end, to think from the desire fulfilled, even when nothing seems to change. That inner steadiness is the seed's confidence in the soil. It does not push. It does not panic. It knows that the process is already in motion. People often confuse activity with progress, thinking that if they just do more affirmations, more visualizations, more techniques, they can make something happen faster. But this approach often comes from fear. It comes from doubt that the initial assumption was enough. In reality, the deeper your faith, the less you feel the need to do. You act only from inspiration. Actions are not frantic attempts to force results, but natural expressions of the state you now occupy within. You do not try to become, you are. Faith is dwelling in the end without resistance. It is being so absorbed in the feeling of the wish fulfilled that the absence of it in the physical world no longer bothers you. It is living in the unseen reality so convincingly that your heart is satisfied, even if your eyes see nothing. This is not denial, it is creative vision. It is inner conviction that the outer must and will. And because you are not reacting to the outer world, you give it room to reshape itself in accordance with your inner state. The test of faith is not whether you can remain confident when things go well, but whether you can stay still in your assumption when nothing yet appears to be happening. Can you remain unmoved when the senses scream the opposite of your desire? Can you walk calmly as if it were done while the world offers no proof? That is faith, not effort, not force, not noise, stillness, quiet power, a gentle, unwavering trust in the creative law that what is felt inwardly must express outwardly in time. This kind of faith cannot be faked. It arises from genuine acceptance. When you have assumed the state and truly feel it to be yours, there is nothing left to do but live from it. And in that stillness, you radiate certainty. The world responds to that certainty because consciousness is always creating. You do not need to fight for what is already yours in spirit. You simply align with it and allow it to unfold. The promise is always kept, not through struggle, but through faith. Deep, quiet, and complete. So stop striving, stop reaching, and rest in the knowing that what you have imagined and felt as true is already yours. Dwell in the state, live from the end, and let the world catch up to the reality you've already claimed within.